Today we're going to be tumbling down a rabbit hole with my latest obsession, which is dopamine.
Ooh.
And how it affects happiness.
Very interesting.
Yeah, because the title of our episode today is the
Being of happiness.
And so if you know me, I love all things neuroscience. And so it's been a fascinating, actually it's interesting. I didn't come to this thing, I came to it by accident.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was looking at stuff to do with dopamine and social justice, and then it jumped off into how it affects our life and happiness.
Wow.
Also, maybe I am a rabbit hole digger. Who knows?
Possibly maybe you're both.
Okay, so we were having this funny conversation, right, this morning where I told her, right, that I think I'm not a rabbit hole digger. I think I'm a dog-ditch digger. Okay, so let me tell you my theory, okay, guys?
Yep.
So, which is, because I have a dog, his name is Sam, whom I love. He's very cute. But he has these bouts of obsession that last about 2 to 2.5 weeks. So, for example, when he was a puppy, he used to be obsessed with stealing toilet rolls and then ripping it up all over the garden. And then he'll pretend he didn't know. So it stopped. And then suddenly one Christmas, it resurfaced where he just suddenly started stealing toilet roll. Maybe got dopamine in his brain.
Maybe.
Yeah, he got satisfaction and novelty from ripping out the first toilet roll, and it was a cascade of toilet rolls subsequently. So recently his new obsession is digging ditches in my corn patch.
Oh.
Because I'm growing corn in my garden. It's making my mom really angry because he kicks up like soil all over the place. But I'm not worried because I go, that's just Sam. He likes to dig holes or get obsessed with things for 2.5 weeks. Then after he'll drop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I went, oh, that's me. Is the dog taking after me or am I taking after the dog? Yeah, so I think the way I deal with information is I'm like a dog with a bone. I'll chase after it for a little bit and then I will go, oh, there's too much. And then I give up. And then I leave where it is, and then I come back to it maybe 6 months or a year later, and suddenly I get like obsessed with digging it again. Yeah, but you are different.
Yeah, I think I'm different.
You are definitely a rabbit hole.
Once I latch on to an idea or question, then I will kind of like really seek after the answer.
But then like that, how it never ends, right?
Yeah, it never ends. Maybe they merge, like,
they merge, the holes merge, the tunnels merge.
You dig like deep enough and then go, okay, I cannot, I need to pull myself out, and then you dig another one and then maybe it merge.
That doesn't sound like healthy, but okay. Yeah, so maybe we should change our description in UCH. Rabbit holes or dog ditches? Too bad we don't have IG right now. If not, we'll tell you to vote. Should we change the description?
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, today we're talking the being of happiness because
last weekend, Pastor, you preached a message about happiness.
I did.
And also, of course, about dopamine. But I guess the thing is, the interesting thing is that, or rather not interesting, but I guess happiness is something that everyone is obsessed about and pursue in life to be more happy. But the interesting thing is that the more people pursue happiness, ironically, the less happy they are.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so I mean, this has always been an idea we've talked about in church from time to time. I mean, we are in the business of like holistic living and spiritual lives, and so naturally, this is a topic that lends itself well to our context. But let me just start by throwing in some research from Dr. Emily Esfahani. I'm so sorry, Smith. Yes.
Yeah.
And she's the editor at Stanford University's Hoover Institution, also journalist for the Wall Street Journal. And she's famous for writing the book called The Power of Meaning, Finding Fulfilment in a World Obsessed with Happiness.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, so basically tell us about her.
Yeah, in the book, Smith, she used to believe that the purpose of life was pursuing happiness. So she started searching for the perfect life, beautiful partner, an amazing boyfriend, ideal job. But after getting all these things, she realized that instead of feeling fulfilled, she actually became more anxious. And her anxiety, dissatisfaction with life caused her to go back to school to
do her PhD.
And her graduate thesis is on what makes people happy. Yeah, which eventually become her book.
Yeah, that's right. So her thesis, right, basically goes like this, right? In developed nations, we live in a culture that's obsessed with happiness. So I started my message last week by saying, Thomas Jefferson's famous quote goes, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That comes from the American Declaration of
Yep.
Independence. But really, it is the zeitgeist of any developed capitalistic nation. This idea of we are forever pursuing happiness. Happiness is always around the corner. Something can always be better. We can have more things and be happier than we already are.
Yeah.
So what she found is that is problematic because happiness tends to be temporary. Now, she is defining happiness very specifically, okay, guys, with temporary things, with success, with accolades. And what she found in research is they are temporary. Even relationships, we are not happy in our relationships all of the time.
Yeah.
So one of the things she stresses that's really important is that in sociology and psychology, what scientists are very careful to make a distinction between happiness that comes from things, the temporary excitement, versus meaning and purpose in life, okay?
Yeah.
So there's a big difference. And so what she found in her research is that people who pursued temporary happiness tended to struggle more with anxiety or perceive themselves to be pursuing happiness. People who pursued meaning in life were actually more resilient and ended up doing better in school, at work, and in life. Yeah. So it really turns the age-old mindset on its head that the way to be happy is to pursue it, to chase after it. But really, actually, what the thing we need to do is to learn how to be happy and learn contentment and learn how to enjoy the process and the journey versus chasing after a thing.
Yeah, and ironically, when we do that, we are more happy
Yes.
in life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so she has 4 pillars.
Yeah. She has 4 pillars to a meaningful life, which is belonging, purpose, storytelling, and transcendence. So how she's defining belonging is a connection to a larger community, which is really purposefully forging, sustaining relationships that matter. Purpose is long-term goals that give us a sense of accomplishment, allows us to have something to work towards and to work for. Then storytelling is building meaning through our own personal narrative, reflections, knowing our place within the world.
And the final one, transcendence.
Which is connection to something bigger than ourselves, a higher being, a higher power, having a bigger picture, have this sensing that everything you do or who you are kind of builds
works to a good...
works to a bigger purpose and bigger goal.
Yeah, interesting, right? Brene Brown also found the exact same thing in her research on vulnerable people. Yeah. So, but you told me something interesting, which was you went to dig a little deeper down the rabbit hole.
Yes. So she was saying that we all need these 4 pillars, but every one of us may depend on one of the pillars. We have one dominant pillar.
One dominant pillar, not 2. Has to be 1.
I think her quiz is 1.
Okay, her quiz is 1. Okay,
yeah, so
what
you
was
can answer
yours?
some questions. So for mine is transcendence.
I'm surprised and yet not surprised. But okay, cool, go.
Yeah, which is basically knowing that everything I do, everything I am, it's for a bigger
purpose and greater good.
Yeah, it's a bigger story.
I feel like technically every pastor transcendence should be our main pillar, right? If not, what are we doing? But it's funny because now when you told me that, I was like, oh, I transcendence is not my pillar. I think belonging is my pillar.
Connection, right, Pastor?
Yeah, storytelling, I think I relate to the least. Wow, but I'm starting to now, you see, now my mind is tumbling down a rabbit hole. I'm thinking, is this a self-esteem problem? Yeah. No, but mine, I think definitely is belonging. I need to feel, even when I look at transcendence, I look at it through the lens of belonging. I need to feel connected to God. I need to feel like I have a relationship with God. That is more important to me than what I do for God. Yeah, and I think same thing is with people. She knows. I get very angsty when I feel disconnected from my team, or I feel like our relationship is not simpatico, or we don't trust each other enough. I get really angsty. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. So fascinating, huh?
Yeah.
It's too bad we don't have IG right now because we're still on social media detox. So many things today that we can ask people to hit us out. Like, shall we change it to rabbit hole or digging ditches? Or
which is your pillar?
Which is your pillar?
For a meaningful life. Yeah.
Maybe we should post it in the description.
Oh, we should. I'm curious to know.
Yeah,
what is your pillar?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's interesting is, so this is me connecting the dots, right? Another platform that I've been following recently on YouTube is this place called Med Circle. And it's great because it's a collective of like psychologists, like clinical psychologists who are offering their take on therapy and
Mental
tools,
health.
mental health and stuff. Yeah, much better than all the pop psychology on IG. So I learned this from Dr. Judy, who's one of the psychologists there, this concept of hedonic versus eudaemonic happiness. And I think it's in line with what Esfahani is talking about, which is, we've been using this in church, right? Hedonic is defined as the temporary stuff you get from fun. Like you eat good food, you feel happy. You travel and have a new experience, you feel happy. You hang out with friends and have a good old time, you feel happy. But those things don't last. They are moments in time, events in your life.
Yeah.
But eudaemonic is something deeper that she talks about, where it is about purpose in life, that you're living towards something, a journey, and that journey itself, you derive meaning and satisfaction and contentment. And the thing about eudaemonic that's different from hedonic is eudaemonic isn't always pleasurable. That means there's suffering in the process. So how, okay, let me just give you an example so that you guys can figure out what this is, right? So for example, if you decide to do a university degree that is relevant to your calling or your identity or the career that you want in life, that journey to do the degree will be filled with hardship, suffering, days where sometimes you feel anxious and you're wondering why you're doing this. But if you ask people who are on that journey to look back and say, was it worth it? Most people say yes. Do you have regrets that you want to change up? Maybe. Did you suffer and struggle? Yes. But you wouldn't change it because it was worth it. And along the way, you also had hedonic moments of happiness. For example, I don't know, burning the midnight oil, and then your friends and you did well for the exam and you celebrate. So eudaemonic can encompass hedonic. It doesn't mean it's all suffering and woe. Yeah. And so the second is something deeper. And she said we need both to function in life. But it is very important that we don't land in one camp or the other a little too much. So for example, if you are too eudaemonic in your mindset, then you will tend to glorify suffering a little too much and not enjoy life. But if you're too hedonic, then you're just shallowly chasing, like, I don't know, the next Instagram photo, the next post, the next cafe hopping experience, and you end up leading actually a very unsatisfied life. Yeah.
But basically, eudaemonic means that you only experience the fulfillment of the happiness when you look back.
Fulfillment of the happiness?
Fulfillment of the meaning.
No lah, we're God. Like, I feel happiness when I'm like apart. Like, it can be, I think the experience, I mean, isn't that true? The human beings are so complex. We can experience both experiences at once.
Yeah.
Like, that's why that term, right, from A Tale of Two Cities was the best of times and it was the worst of times. Like, COVID can be a horrible time, and yet there are moments where, oh God, it's so much fun and innovation and you're together in it.
It's
like,
true.
Yeah, so I don't think they are in a conflict, but I do think one is slightly more important and fundamental than the other.
Yeah.
But I don't think the other is less lah, because I think that's important. We'll talk about that with regards to dopamine in a second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's it, right? So how do we be happy?
How do we be happy?
Yeah, especially we are so obsessed, like what Dr. Emily said, right? We're so obsessed with chasing after happiness and going from one thing to the next thing because we wanna be happy and satisfied.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, I think we need to change our perspective. Whichever end of the spectrum we're existing in right now in our current lives, right? So I think for our community, I felt the need recently to say and remind everybody that being happy is in the here and now, and it starts here and now. It doesn't start when we get our future. Because we've been talking a lot about that recently, about the evolution and our future, and that's great. The future starts now. We have to start building towards it. But happiness also starts now. It doesn't start when we reach there. It starts now. Learning to be happy with what we have is important. So I think that's the first, fundamental thing, our perspective, especially for millennials and for Gen Z, needs to change in that way. But the second thing is also to realize, right, that to be conscious that pursuing happiness isn't actually going to make you happy. Because I think that's the other fallacy we live by, right? We live by being able to earn money to travel. We live by this moment, hang out with people needs to be fun and exciting and high for me to be happy in life. But it just simply isn't true. The research doesn't bear out that it's true. So I do think the pursuit of happiness has its place. It makes us achieve the future.
Yeah.
But maybe we should change that to the pursuit of the future instead of the pursuit of happiness and being happy. And those two things need to connect with one another.
So, Fazal, I think my question is just how important it is to be happy in the here and now versus having something that you're pursuing. Because from my perspective is that having a goal, being driven, having something that you're pursuing keeps you motivated, keeps you growing, and keeps you progressing. Like even when I read in the Bible, a lot of it focus on that you need to be aware of that there is a
race that we're running.
Yes.
That we need to finish and get the trophy.
Yeah, I mean, like even when Jesus was on the cross, he was saying that because of the joy that awaited him, that's why he went to the cross. So I go, oh, then having a goal, pursuing a goal, isn't that very important? Yeah.
Okay. So, but the same Bible that tells us Jesus endured the cross, right, in order to get to that goal, is the same Bible where Jesus teaches us the Beatitude, which is to be happy in the midst of your suffering, not when you've overcome suffering. So let me throw another spanner in the works. Okay, here's where I'm going to dig a ditch in your life. Because I think part of that perspective comes from, number one, naturally, by temperament, you are a very goal-oriented person. And it's not wrong. It's a good thing. You are you like to set goals and you like to see it get from A to B, right? I think also the other complication is that we lived in a generation where we were taught goal setting is that the successful people set goals. Right? What was it? Last time we used to quote that statistic, right? Which later on I stopped quoting because when I went to go and dig a ditch, I realized that this is not accurate. Yeah. So we've been brought up on that idea. Then the other complication is, let me dig it further. It's not Jesus who said that of himself, it's Paul who said that of Jesus. But again, I'm not saying that it's not important, which I will disprove it. Well, I just think both are equally important. I think if you land too far in the future, you're always going to feel disappointed and you'll always arrive at your future and be less happy than you expected to be. Right?
Yeah.
But if you learn to have both, which is you learn to be happy whether or not you got what you wanted, you can enjoy the ride a little bit more. And you can also celebrate the things that you picked out along the way that you didn't expect. Yeah, so I just think our generation needs to swing back to a bit of a more balanced view, which is that yes, pursue the future. Let's make the world a better place. Let's live into some greater good and identity that we believe in, but let's also be happy despite our circumstances and learn to find joy in the process.
So basically, it's possible to be contented, but never satisfied. Is it?
Well, it depends how people use the word, right? Some people would say learn to never be satisfied and keep pursuing, and but learn to be content at the same time. It's an oxymoron that you gotta sit in. So however you language that, I think yes, we gotta do both.
Yes. So PC, what does dopamine has to do with all this?
Haha, okay, here I go. Okay, so here's where I fell down a rabbit hole, right? Because I was researching this for social justice, and then after it jumped off into making me question like my leadership and goal setting and the way I chase after things in life. Okay, so I got this from Dr. Daniel Liberman and Michael Long. Now, they wrote, I think, a New York Times bestseller called The Molecule of More, which both of them actually study the effects of dopamine on human beings and even our behavior as a society lah. Okay, so in this, let me just break down from the very base level. Okay, so I didn't know this, but our brains actually have two pathways when it comes to experiencing good feelings. Okay, so I'm not going to use happiness here, so lest we confuse the thing. So two pathways to feeling good. One is what he calls the pathway of more. Okay, and the other is the pathway of here and now. So the pathway of more is actually governed by dopamine. The reward pathway, I guess some people call it. But what they found in so old studies will call dopamine the molecule of pleasure, the reward molecule, the thing that makes us feel good. But recent studies, right, scientists have actually renamed it, nicknamed the nickname of dopamine to the molecule of novelty, not of pleasure. And why is because it's not like the moment you eat food, right, automatically you will feel a certain amount of pleasure. Like, for example, I don't know, you like bananas. Every time you eat a banana, you feel 10% happier. It doesn't work that way. It's actually novelty. So the example he gave was that if you expect to open your wallet and find $20, but you find $40 instead, you feel excited and happy because of the difference. Instead of finding 20, you found 20 more. Okay, so that's actually how dopamine works. It is the thing that's necessary in our brain to help us to achieve and to progress. So we keep pursuing more in order to keep moving forward. Okay, so now dopamine is highly correlated with, actually most studies in dopamine started with studies in addiction, because that is the thing that causes addiction, the addiction to more. So alcohol, same thing, there's a lot of diminishing returns, or addiction to anything, whether it's anything good, sex, food, pornography, there's a lot of diminishing returns. You keep needing something new and novel and more intense in order to create the same amount of pleasure. Shopping is the same thing. Okay, so it's good in that it helps you to achieve. But if it gets out of control, which is what he argues in his book is happening with social media and the more connected world, then it gets out of control and it can destroy us with addiction. Okay, so that's dopamine. Now, the other pathway is a here and now pathway. And those pathways are governed by four chemicals, okay? Serotonin, which controls our mood and anxiety. Endocannabinoid, I always have trouble with that one, which gives us the feelings of happiness and delight. This is the real happiness and pleasure molecule, okay? Oxytocin is what warmth and bonding you get from bonding with people. Endorphins gives you pleasure and satisfaction, okay? So what's very interesting is dopamine also governs your perception of the future, and the here and now governs your perception of being and contentment in the now. Yeah, so those two things need to be in a good balance. Otherwise, if they go too out of whack, so for example, if you are too low on dopamine, you have very low drive in life. So you're just happy to just be. You know, some personalities are that, like, I don't need anything. I'm just happy. If I make a paycheck, I'll be good. Yeah, I'm just happy. Okay, so that's what happens when you have low dopamine. Now, when you have too high dopamine, then that's where you get A-type personality, right? And some artists especially. So apparently A-type personalities and artists have something in common, which is they are too highly dopaminergic sensitive. They have a genetic predisposition to never be satisfied. Which that's why it correlates to, for example, A-type personalities, right? They are the people that make a lot of money, then they buy the beach house and the yacht, but then never stop to enjoy it. They feel they have to chase the next thing. Artists are the same way. If they don't have the high of artistry and what they get from creativity, they fall into depression, addiction, alcohol consumption, things like that. And then their whole life goes haywire. So actually, they are more similar than people think in the brain, okay? Yeah, so we need to find a way to, in order to feel happy, right, or be good in our lives, we need to be able to balance the two lah.
So please, I have a question, which is, the pursuit of happiness, is it a genetic thing or is it because of environment?
I think from what I've listened to so far, it is both lah. So, for example, like what I just mentioned, right? A-types and artists, there is a correlation between them being more dopaminergic sensitive. Yeah, so definitely there's a genetic component. And I will agree because I do see some of these tendencies. I'm not the most artistic personality out there, but I can see the tendencies in me and the A-type tendencies as well lah. So I just have to be more aware of it. I kind of just like body types, I guess. Yeah, and like you go to the gym and you need to figure out your body type and figure out what works for you. So I think there is, yes, that genetic component. But I think the thing that especially Molecule of More is raising, and I think Andrew Huberman also implies, is that social media and being in this very highly connected world with our smartphones is nurturing an entire society to be dopamine addicted. That means we are literally predisposing ourselves to be more dissatisfied and anxious, which really has implications on mental health, if you ask me. That we want to solve the mental health crisis, we need to solve what's going on in our brain, which is the addiction to dopamine and how the pursuit of more, buying more things, having more things, and fun all the time, hedonic happiness all the time, is creating problems in our lives, in our mind, in our mental health, in our body. Yeah, so I think it's something that we got to be aware of.
Which is very problematic, right? I'm thinking about it because now, not just social media, but just every other thing is so accessible.
Yeah.
And you can literally go online and get dopamine, or you can just shop and you can get dopamine. There's so many ways to get dopamine.
Like immediately with that device in your hand. Yeah, literally. Yeah, because I think one of the things that was brought up by Andrew Huberman, which you found very interesting, right? He said one of the important ways to get dopamine is actually through oxytocin instead of dopamine, which means through having relationships with people. Like oxytocin actually helps trigger healthy levels of dopamine in the brain. So when you look at it anthropologically in evolution, right, it was important because last time you don't have a lot of connections. So in order to foster more social connections, you build friendships with people, bonding, oxytocin is released and it creates dopamine, so it encourages you to bond more. But now we have a replacement, a very bad, fake replacement, which is connection on social media. But it is not the same thing as oxytocin bonding. Yeah, so I think there are all kinds of problems with this lah. Basically, we have this brain that has like evolved over time and space, but hasn't evolved enough to keep up with technology.
Yeah. Which begs the question, right? So PC, how do we regulate then?
I think self-awareness seems to be the first thing. Self-awareness and making sure we control our perception and become aware that this is what's happening in our body and brain now. Okay, so right, for me, because the past few weeks I've been listening to all this stuff and like digging a hole in this, right? So we were doing social media detox. I suddenly became aware of what was really happening because I was commenting. I said, wow, this social media detox, the easiest it's ever been. It's our 4th, 5th round. I just came off social media, whatever, man. I don't feel anything. Happy to do it. But then I started to notice that in week 1, I'm snacking a lot. And if you know me again, I'm not a snacker. I'm not a snacker. I really just don't snack. I eat big meals, whatever. I don't snack. And then second week, I started to notice, I'm watching a lot of TV, and the angsty kind of like I need to find an episode to watch, even though there's nothing to watch on Netflix at this point of time, and nothing is really interesting to me. And I feel the need to go and click and scroll through something. And I realized what I was doing. Basically, right, I'm coming off the dopamine spike and I'm replacing the deficit with other things to produce dopamine in my brain. That's why, right, in addiction, normally they'll tell you, right, be very careful not to replace one addiction with another. Because actually you're just doing the same thing in your brain now. Okay, so let me explain the dopamine thing. Okay, so I should talk about the spikes thing.
Yep.
So Andrew Huberman talks about how we get dopamine 2 ways. One is each of us has a baseline. So I guess that is our genetic predisposition that we have a certain mean. So if you have a lower mean, you will tend to be a less motivated, more contented person. If you have a higher mean, then you tend to be always pursuing something, goals, that type of a personality. So we all have a baseline. Now, he mentions in his work that you can raise the baseline, but he's never quite specific about how. He talks more about regulating it versus raising it, but he says it can be raised. So if you're not motivated, you can actually raise it. But so this is your healthy state.
Yeah.
But what we do in life is we spike it. So for example, when you get a social media like, you will spike dopamine above baseline, let's say just a little bit. Then it will drop. Okay, now the problem with that is you will drop below baseline equivalent to how much you spiked above baseline.
Oh, it doesn't go back to zero.
No, it doesn't go back to zero. It drops below zero. And so that's what happens in your body, where after you get a like, you feel the need to pursue another like because of the dip. Okay, now different things produce different amounts of dopamine. So remember, we talked about novelty is one aspect.
Yeah.
But the action itself also can have certain levels. So for example, now there's both an actual component and a cognitive component. So like for example, a like will probably be lower. But alcohol will spike you above baseline 2.5 times and then drop you 2.5 times down.
Oh, that's why people feel miserable after.
Yes, exactly. So that's why a lot of people who are depressed means they've had a major dopamine drop or drop in serotonin. They drink because it's a fast way to spike happiness or like feeling better. Okay? So now again, these are not isolated incidents. So what most human beings do is we layer our dopamine. So for example, one example that I listened to in the podcast was, for example, they studied, right, people who work out, people who are very gym ratish. Okay, and they found that what usually happens to gym rats is they keep layering their dopamine. So for example, they like the high of working out, but in order to keep the same high, because dopamine is the dopamine novelty, they start drinking coffee and energy drinks. They start listening to music and more intense music to make them feel even more pumped up because they are addicted to the high of the workout. But actually it's the high of everything lah.
Yeah.
And then they come out because dopamine creates clarity sometimes and creates energy and drive. So the first 3 hours after the workout, they are very driven at work. They're very clear-minded. They feel like they can accomplish a lot of things. But then after the 3-hour mark, they experience a crash because they spiked the dopamine so high, it crashed equivalent below baseline after. And then they spend the rest of the day in brain fog because they can't recover. Or they will try to find something else to spike it out. So drink more coffee, drink alcohol, whatever it is to get it back up. Yeah, but the problem with this behavior is long-term, it actually lowers your baseline and it can turn into depression and other mental health problems. So another example he gave was there's this guy who was a gamer. And he was severely addicted to games. I'm talking about like playing hours on end. And he went to the doctor because he started having major depression but couldn't stop playing. And then he started to display signs of ADHD. And they were about to put him on all these medications for his mental health. Then suddenly the doctor suggested, let's just do one more thing before we resort to medication. And he went on a complete detox of all media, not just gaming, but all media in his life. So he went cold turkey. So first 14 days, he was so jittery and angsty. But the moment he crossed 14 days and got to 21 days, he got better. And by the end of his detox, right, they found that he was not ADHD. He was no longer depressed. And so what happened was he spent a period of time fasting to allow his dopamine baseline to return to normal.
Oh.
Yeah. So one of the things Andrew Huberman raises, this neuroscientist, he raises that there's a lot of, he says, yes, a lot of people are not getting diagnosed correctly, that they have ADHD and need help.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are getting misdiagnosed now because we live in a generation that is so severely addicted to dopamine and not aware of the consequences it has on our mental health and well-being. Yes. Dun, dun.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyone a little bit freaked out after hearing all that? Because I was a little bit freaked out.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, Pastor, when we say, let's say we experience a deep, right?
Yeah.
The best way is to really write it out. And
Yes.
being aware that you are just trying to wait till your baseline goes up.
Yeah. And not trying to pad it with stuff. So for example, alcoholics, right?
Yeah.
So alcoholics, right? What happens is they drink a lot and they experience a huge crash the next day. And a lot of them medicate by drinking like a little bit of alcohol. They say because it makes them feel better. Now it does a little bit because it'll raise your dopamine, but not as much. For example, 1 cup versus drinking a whole bottle. So it'll raise it a little bit and take off the edge. But then the moment you drink again, it just keeps escalating down. No?
Oh, and it becomes like a cycle.
Yes.
That you just can't get off.
Yeah. So that's why with drinking, well, you know lah, because I have a very like strict rule about drinking. I don't drink often because I feel like it's a liability for me. But now knowing this, I kind of do it also more self-aware. So if I drink, I know the next day I'm going to have a low, and I don't need to go, is there something wrong with my life and emo over it? Because I'm self-aware. Oh, that is just dopamine going down in my brain. And alcohol also inhibits serotonin production, which means you get more anxious. So if I can be aware that, oh, that's what's going on in my brain, I don't need to emo over it. And I don't need to do something about it, like go feed my soul with something to feel better. I actually just need to ride it out and let it return to baseline. Yeah.
Interesting. But another thing is, so that's it, right? But do you think that different people are more, meaning different things gives different dopamine to different people?
Yes. So the substance itself, right? The actual thing has an effect on dopamine. So for example, it's proven alcohol, cocaine spikes it way higher than say a social media post. But Andrew Huberman also says we do things like we attach cognitive value to certain things.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah. So, which is why, for example, I said recently, did I say this in the message too? That when we counsel youth and we ask them what are you passionate about? What makes you energetic and makes you get out of bed? And they name stuff. Actually, what's happening in the brain is that they're naming the things that cause them to have a hit of dopamine. But that is also indicative sometimes. It's a good starting point to figure out, what a youth might be passionate in because they get a high or they feel motivated about that particular area. Then the next step becomes deciphering the difference between passion and calling and all those things. Yeah. So there is a certain usefulness to it, I feel. But different things, we can actually attach cognitive value to it. So he also talks about how a healthier way to use dopamine in our life is to stop attaching dopamine to reward and to attach it to the process and hard work itself. And he said it's simple. It's as simple as training yourself to have a growth mindset. To literally say, this is painful, this is difficult, like working out is tough, but I love it because it's good for me. And he said the more you do it, it switches something in your circuits to attach dopamine, a healthy dopamine reward from the process of hard work. So that's how he talks about make dopamine work for you versus letting it control you. But if you attach it to reward, he's got another colleague who studies this. Goal setting actually has a lot of diminishing returns. You're going to feel less motivated over time, or you're going to have to create more extravagant and crazy goals in order to create the same level of dopamine and sense of achievement. So that is why A-type personalities will tell you too, right? They reach it and they don't feel as happy as they thought it would. Then they chase the next thing and actually they struggle with anxiety and depression all their life. It's because goal setting actually doesn't work as well as a growth mindset. Yeah. Oh no, now how does that make you feel? Goal-oriented person?
But first it's okay to have both, right? Meaning have a goal, but the more important thing is to be present and to love the grind, to be in the moment.
And I suppose for you, then it will be attaching it to transcendence, that I'm doing this for a greater purpose and that I love the process because it contributes to meaning and purpose and a greater good. Yeah. So there is something to that. Again, something to that I think, therefore I am, right? Like, we can literally rewire our brain to attach certain values to certain things. So I think rewiring our perception is so important. If you continue to think hedonic happiness is the most important thing in life, cafe hopping, posting stuff on Instagram to make yourself look good, accolades, then you're always going to be anxious and unhappy because you're utilizing dopamine wrongly. When dopamine should be attached to the reward of the process and a lot of the here and now and not just the future. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me think differently about goal setting.
Yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
it makes habit stacking therefore even more important, I think. And it would change, I think. You asking me just now, does it change the way then we would raise people? Yes, it does. Like, I think we've always done it. We always taught our youth to love hard work and the process and the journey. We've said it. But now I think we'll say it with a lot more conviction, and it might even change the way we language certain things, because that's actually the thing that's going to make them more successful in life. Not just dreams,
Yes.
faith for the future, imagination. Like, it's also teaching them how to enjoy the here and now and the process of hard work. And that hard work is fun. And not just fun is fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think that's one of the things I would think about with Gen Z, right? Because when all of them now, when you ask them, so what do you think your identity is? And they tell you fun, happiness, joy, I really wanted, like, tell me exactly what that means when you say that. Because how they define that is very important. Because I think a lot of them are defining it based on the consumeristic, capitalistic society that they're being nurtured in.
True.
Getting likes on Instagram, getting satisfaction from things, confirmation bias. Yeah, ranting at people, showing off for millennials. Yeah. So I think if they can be self-aware, it can really change, and they can change their perception and what they attach happiness to. It will be quite powerful. Yeah.
So basically, would you say that being happy is being at your healthy level, which is like, it can't be too high, it can't be too low?
I don't know that I will say that. I'm not sure. I don't think I know enough of the science to say it with confidence. I can only say it from a more philosophical level. And I would say the Bible teaches the same thing, right? That it's a funny thing, because in theology, we do have this idea, this tension between seeing God's kingdom in the here and now for the world and for ourselves. And also, it's also simultaneously a hope in the future. And there's always this tension, and in theology, it's never resolved. Never. When you go and study theology, it's never. So I would say from a philosophical point of view, and now with a little bit of science thrown in, that it's very important to have both in our lives. And I think it's also important to let people be them. Like, to enjoy the people who in our church are a little bit more here and now, and bring contentment to the room. And as a team, the ones who help drive the future forward, I just think all of us have to be healthy in a way that's us. And as a team, there must be a good, healthy equilibrium. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, acknowledging that you are you.
Yeah. Because I think it'll also be a sweeping mistake to say that people who are more content are not driven. They might be driven about different things. Like, a lot of the very seemingly content people in our church are the people who are very happy to help one life at a time. I want to sit here and listen to your problems. I want to help make space. I want to help to counsel. I don't need to be the person driving the big events, and I don't think they're any less driven. I think they just use their dopamine in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get their dopamine differently.
Yeah, they get their dopamine differently, and maybe in a better way. Yeah. So it's not important now, because I do think systemic change is important. I think scientific discovery is important. I think leadership, organizational leadership is important. Yeah. So I just think we're all built differently. I just think if we can manage those tendencies in a good way, that the contented people don't become zero drive. And the driven people don't become depressed and anxious all the time.
Or burnout.
Burnout. Yeah. Then I think it's a good place to be. Yeah. So pursue things, but don't overdo it.
Yep.
Be happy with how things are.
So to round things up, some of the things that you can do to regulate your dopamine levels, which we already mentioned, all of it already, but just in summary, is first thing to be self-aware. Second thing, to do intermittent fasting of all
Anything that triggers your dopamine.
anything So third thing is don't overdo dopamine by layering too many pleasurable things nonstop.
Yeah.
Then fourthly, be careful with your handphone and social media and media, and to realize that it's not the same as human connection.
Yes.
Then next one is to adopt a growth mindset, basically to attach happiness to hard work and to enjoy the process.
Instead of just rewards. Yeah. Yes. So I got a corny line to drop on you before we end off today.
Yeah.
So desire your future. That's your dopamine. But fall in love with the process, which is your here and now. And that's it. Bye-bye.
Bye.